All right, Chapter 3, Unit 3, Section 4. First, we're going to start with a slope review, and then we'll get into parallel and perpendicular based on slope. So let's refresh what we know about slope. Okay, finding the slope of a line. Slope is the rate of change. How is the line changing, and at what rate is it changing? Is it going up? Is it going down? And how fast is it doing that? The bigger the number, the faster it's going. So let's just look at some general pictures of slopes. Whenever we look at these, we always look left to right. How is it going? Okay, we're going to look left to right. How is the line going? Well, if we look at this first box here, this line from left to right is going up. So we're going to call that a positive slope. On the next one, if we look at it, it's going down. We're going to call that a negative slope. That's a weird B there. Now, the next two are the trickiest ones of slope because the numbers for the slope is very interesting, very weird. So as we go left to right, we would call that flat. Got an A there. Flat or horizontal. Okay, flat or horizontal, and that's going to be a zero slope. Okay, 0 over some number. And then the next one is going vertical, and we would call that an undefined slope. Now, when we talk about zero slope, and when we talk about slope in general, we're talking about something called M, right? And that is rise over run, or the change in y over the change in x. We should remember this from Algebra 1. Sometimes it's symbolized as delta, the triangle y, over delta, the triangle x. The delta means change in y over change in x. Okay, so we do y's on top, rise on top, y's on top. So if we look at all of these, particularly the 0 and the undefined, the 0, M is going to be 0 rise over some run amount. The undefined is going to be some rise amount over 0 run. And you can't divide by 0. That's why we get that undefined number. So that's things to be on the lookout for. Undefined, we can write as a fraction. It's going to be change in y, up and down, how much it's moving, probably a 1 or some other number. And then divided by 0 left and right. So that gives us an undefined amount. Whereas 0, you can divide 0 by any number. You can have 0 pizzas and give it to 15 friends. You give them all 0 pizza. It's very easy. But you can't have 15 friends and give them, or you can't have a pizza and give it to no one. Okay? The pizza has to go somewhere. So that's what we're looking at here with slope. The change in the rate of y to x. How much is it moving up and down? How much is it moving left and right? Things to remember on the graph. Okay? Things to remember on the graph. This is x in the positive direction. This is x in the negative direction, right? I guess I should write that as plus x. This is plus in the y direction. This is minus in the y direction. Okay, we need to remember all of those things. Remember that this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Okay, and our coordinates is always x comma y. This is going to be plus plus. This one's going to be minus plus. This one's going to be minus minus. This one's going to be plus minus. Those are always X then Y. It's always alphabetical. Okay. Now, if you're given a graph to find the slope, the easiest way is M is rise over run, or Y over X. Okay. And all you have to do is start from one point and count to the other point. Count your ups, put them on top, and count your runs, your left and rights. Put them on bottom. So if we start here at point A, we don't even have to count it, but we can say where that point is, but it doesn't really matter. All we have to do is figure out where B is. And really, we could go anywhere that is a perfect mash in the middle, but B is the next one. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. That's 4 upwards. That's going to go on top. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the run. Up is positive. Right is positive. So that's a positive 4/5. Now, if we look at number 2, I can already tell because left to right wise, it's going down. But it starts here and goes to there. So let's count them. Down, 1, 2, 3. That's a -3 on top. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right. Oh, and look at that. 3 goes into 6. I can reduce that to -1/2. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 6 twice. So my best answer is -1/2. And I probably could have counted down 1 and then over 2, and there's a nice spot. Down 1 over 2, and there's a nice spot. And I hit a lot more places. So there's an example of positive in number 1, example of negative in number 2. Number 3, that's straight up and down. So if I want to talk about this, my vertical change, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 down, but I don't go anywhere left and right, and I can't divide by 0, so that's undefined. Now if we look at number 4, I don't go up or down, but I went 1, 2, 3 to the right, but 0 divided by 3 is just 0 slope, horizontal line, okay? Now, if you're given an ordered pair, remember that ordered pairs are always x, y, x, y, okay? This is one you'll remember, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. People get really confused on which ones go where and which ones go what and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you a color-coded example. Okay, so if this is x1 comma y1, and this is x2 comma y2, then in our slope, okay, y1 and x1 go back here, and y2 and x2 go right there. Now, it doesn't actually matter which one goes where. What matters is the coordinate is on top of itself, and the other coordinate is on top of itself. It doesn't matter if you switch them up and you put y1 and x1 in front and y2 and x2 in back. What matters is the y's must be on top and the x's must be on bottom, and the things from a coordinate need to be on top and bottom of each other. Okay, so let's look at this on number 5. Find the slope of AB, where A is at -2,5 and B is at 6, -1. Well, I call this thing the slope monster because it always works, and it starts with M and monster, and that's what I do. Okay, so this is the slope monster. I draw this every time I need to find slope. M equals divide by and then minus minus. These minuses are part of the slope formula. They have to be there. And I put them there ahead of time because it gets weird when you start throwing negatives in there, because negatives look like they already have a minus in front of them. But if it's minus a negative, it changes to plus. So we got to make sure we account for those. So I put the slope monster down first. M equals divide sign minus minus. And then I plug in the points 1 point at a time. Okay? And I'm going to do it color-coded. Let's put in point A first. The y goes on top, the x goes on bottom. And then let's do point B. The y goes on top, the x goes on bottom. If you do that every time, you will not mess this up. And it doesn't matter which point goes in front or goes in back. 5 minus negative 1 goes plus plus, makes a 6. 2 minus 6 gets more negative, that's negative 8. 2 goes into both of those, it goes 3 times and 4 times, and it's negative 3/4 is my slope. Now what I want to do is I want to show you the math, but backwards. Let's say we did negative 1 over 6, and we did 5 over negative 2. Let's make sure the math works no matter which way we put them. Now notice, same point goes on top and bottom, y on top, x on bottom. 1 minus 5 becomes add more negative. Sorry, I want to do that there, red. So negative 1 and negative 5 is negative 6. And 6 minus negative 2 goes plus plus. That makes 8. And we still have negative 3/4. And it doesn't matter where the negative is. It doesn't matter if it's down with the 4 or up with the 3 or out in front. As long as it's got a negative, the whole problem's negative. Okay? I'll do one more, and then you can try. So let's do 6. So write down the slope monster. If you got to find slope, you need the slope monster. Y on top, negative 3. X on bottom, negative 11. Better 3 than that. There we go. Y on top, 7. X on bottom, 6. Negative 3 minus 7, let's get more negative, it's negative 10. Negative 11 plus 6 makes negative 5. Negative negative makes positive. 5 goes into 10 2 times. Okay. Pause it, try 7, and try 8. Okay, here we go. Let's see. See if you got them right. Y on top, X on bottom. Y on top, X on bottom. Negative 4 minus 2 gets more negatives, negative 6. 9 minus 9 is 0. You can't divide by 0. That's undefined. Y on top, X on bottom. Y on top, X on bottom. 0 over negative 7, that's 0. And that